Hello and welcome to the Wow Mom Show. I'm your host, Ingrid M. Williams, and today we have a great show in store for you today. We are going to be talking about relationships and how to strengthen them. And if you're a single mom out there, we're going to be talking about some things that you can do in order to help you in the dating world. We'll also be having Miss Nicole B. Simpson. She'll be talking to us about how to have a financial plan just in case of any emergencies, and I know that's something that every mom can use. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to Mr. Keith Dent of Strive to Succeed Coaching Services. Hello, Keith. How are you?
Hello, Ingrid. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
So just tell the people out there, all the moms and non-moms and some dads that might be watching, a little bit about what you do and a little bit about your company.
Well, as president and CEO of Strive to Succeed Coaching Services, we're a company that really helps couples, singles, navigate their relationships. We do it from a variety of ways. We do it either individually or we do it in a workshop setting, because really what we see out there in the media and just on papers is not really geared towards strengthening relationships. So what my organization does is works with couples to help them really create a plan for what they want their relationship to be in a way that's fun, empowering, and not just, combative.
Right. And I think that's an awesome approach to it. I know a lot of moms and just married wives in general that I speak to, a lot of them, they kind of know they need a third-party mediator, but they're always saying, their husband may not be open to counseling, quote, in quotes. What do you say to someone that knows that they might need a little bit of outside help, but doesn't want the counseling feel? How can you give them some tips?
Well, one of the things I think my program is unique, I try to meet them where they are. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if I don't have an office, if they want to meet in their home, I'm accessible that way. I've coached couples via Skype, which is always great. You don't have to worry about dressing up. You can wear whatever you want to wear. Or even in a public place. So it creates a sense of where we're just kind of chatting.
Okay.
And really just talking about some of the challenges that they may be having. I think that's what makes it really unique. If you go to an office that says therapy, it automatically brings the walls up, and that you're going to talk about the past and it's more of a way that well, she did this or he did that. I really start from where they are right now and try to build from there.
Great.
With the different techniques or the different exercises that I give them.
Oh, that's awesome. Because you can't really change what happened in the past, so I think that's a great way to kind of see we're here and how we're going to go from there. So I think that's a great kind of benefit to the service that you offer. Keith, what is your advice for maybe married couple, been married for a couple of years, or, newlyweds, they have a couple kids, their relationship is just different now, not that it's worse, but just different, just from all of life's responsibilities that they have out there. What are two or three good tips that you can give about what a couple would need to do in order to kind of survive in their new area?
Right, and one of the things that's interesting is that's almost expected. I have 3 children of my own, from a variety of ages. So things are just going to automatically change. I think a lot of times we just expect our relationship to be perfect, or just is when we got married. So what I try to do is I try to tell couples to just assess where they are. A good thing is that you really don't think about is that, do you really know your spouse's personality as well as your own? Or I'd say temperament, really, because the advantage is that you can put your partner in a great position. One example where one of the clients that I worked with, she did not know that he was a thinker. We call it. There's 4 types, like a doer, thinker, relator, and like a leader position. Okay. And she didn't really understand that he was a thinker, and she was a doer. So what would happen is that she would give him a task. He was thinking about it to the detail, but he didn't communicate back to her that it had been done. So when she would that was a source of stress for their
Mm-hmm.
relationship because she wasn't able to check it off her list because as a doer, that's kind of what you do. Make sure it's done so you can check it off.
Right.
So that's a very important point that couples really need to check in so they can put them in a position of strength.
Right.
And then that way, another way is to segue into once the kind of kids come, is to assess where you are and create kind of a plan. I really call it GPS for marriage, but
Okay.
it's really a mission statement. And that can help as far as how you want to discipline your kids or even empower them as you start to see their gifts.
Okay.
And it's funny, like we were talking about earlier as far as disciplinarian.
Right.
One of the challenges I think we as men think, well, we're the strong ones, we're always supposed to be the disciplinarian.
Right.
But that may not necessarily be the case. The mom may be the disciplinarian, and that can be a source of tension
Yeah.
for families because you know how we are. You know
Right.
how we get.
Right.
We're like, well, look, wait, I'm
Wait.
supposed to be holding it
I'm
down
the man.
on every detail. But
Yeah.
and that's not all it takes. And maybe take some adjustment and can cause some tension in the marriage. And then one thing that's always great, and I'm sure Nicole's going to touch upon this later, is just the financial piece. With the recession and things that have gone on here in the U.S. and even around the world, the finances have really been a struggle for families. And we don't really think about how we're going to manage them. We try to, it's fly by night. We think planning things are just going to go according to plans.
Right.
And then when some disaster strikes, we don't know how to handle it.
Yes.
So I usually have couples to think about where their ideas about money come from.
Yeah.
First, so then they can determine what type of plan they
They're
can
going to
create from
have.
there.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, one of the bigger things is, you do need money to just kind of survive in life, and that's a lot of it doesn't matter. You need some of it, So I think that, like you said, a lot of times, especially if you have a two kind of income household and maybe one loses, and we will talk about that with
Right.
Nicole Lake in a little bit more detail, but I could see where that could be kind of like a blow to a relationship when now you're down to just one income, but you're kind of like living off of two for this whole time. So emotionally, I could see where one partner may be the one that's, out of a job, where they may shut down and,
Right.
just kind of go through their own thing from being unemployed. And then also the stress of, I have this family to worry about and to make sure that all their needs are met. So being that we're in the times that we're in now, what is some tips that you can possibly, just from the maintaining the relationship level, that you can give maybe to someone that might be out there in that same specific situation that's just kind of like, I don't know what to do, I'm going to walk away in like T-minus 2 seconds. What advice can you give them?
Well, the first thing, call me. But I think the one partner needs to communicate that how they feel.
Okay.
I think sometimes partners, they don't communicate as well as they should.
All right.
And should really create kind of a check-in on a periodic basis. I think if you have some, let's say if you are a spender in or you're a spender and you've always done that, and the person that's working doesn't really talk about, well, they had a cutback in their pay, and they don't communicate that, and the other person's still spending like they did a year or so ago, that will be a cause of tension. So
Right.
then here, the person that's the breadwinner blows up because, checks the bills and saying, oh, this is being spent. That could have easily been remedied if there's been ongoing communication.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of like the blanket of everything. And sometimes people kind of find a little bit of difficulty of communicating in certain areas, especially if, like you said, everybody's not so vocal. They're processing the information and they're trying to figure out how they're going to approach the situation. I know I'm the type of person that's like, well, I just said all this stuff to you. You don't have anything to say back. The other person is
Right.
kind of processing it. So definitely that's totally important about learning the just different communication
Right.
styles.
And that's where the temperament, I usually give clients a temperament survey in the beginning
Yeah.
when I work with them, because it gives them an opportunity to understand where the person's coming from, because I think a person's temperament really drives everything
Right.
in their relationship, how they deal with money, like sex in the relationship, their social settings, all that is kind of driven on, what their temperament is. So
Right.
that's always a good starting point that I like to take.
Right, and a lot of people, it's yourself, so you don't even really kind of tune into what it is. You're feeling a certain way, but you don't maybe necessarily know why or have a specific name to put in it or just a way that you process. You just know that that's what you do.
Right.
So it's good to sit down with you and talk about, what actually the root of this is and, put a name to it and figure out kind of, oh, okay, so I'm not, totally difficult to
Right.
deal with.
Right, that's right,
It's
that's right.
It's totally normal for this specific type
Right.
of person. It's good to have your partner to hear that.
That's true.
So they don't think that, it's just you and your craziness.
Because each temperament, you can, and I think it's refreshing because each temperament can deal with another person's temperament.
Mm-hmm.
We always hear where we can only marry or date this particular person
Right.
because that's what comes to us, but that's not the case. And I've actually gotten that question as well.
Right.
So that's really a great thing.
Well, that's awesome. I think you gave our guests some really great tips today. Just really quickly, let's just touch on maybe single parents
Okay.
that are kind of back in the dating arena. What are some, maybe 3 good tips that you can give them to kind of find love again?
Well, I think a very key tip is in the beginning, think about why you want to date. I think that's a good good to step back and say, well, why do I want to date?
Okay.
And then once you kind of have an idea of, yes, you really want to be in a relationship versus just having somebody take care of you, it takes on a different aspect. And then determine who you want to date. Want someone that has kids or someone that doesn't.
Okay.
I think that will vary on as far as communication, comfort level, because if someone that has kids will have a different comfort level on when you can see each other, when you can't, versus someone that doesn't have kids.
Right.
You have to be a little bit more open with your communication, maybe a little understanding of what that person may be going through because they may have different expectations on the relationship, and then take it slow.
Right.
Just communicate with your partner, let them know where you stand and what you want to accomplish in the relationship.
Great. I think those are all great tips. Thank you so much, Keith, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You had wonderful advice. Just tell the people really quickly where they can find you.
Well, they could find me. My website is Strive, STRIVE, the number 2 spelled out, TWO succeed at wordpress.com. Or you can email me at strive2succeed at comcast.net. That's the number 2.
Great. Thank you so much, Keith, for coming to the show. We really appreciate your advice, and we hope that someone will benefit from it, a lot of people. Please feel free to look Keith up whenever you have a chance. We'll be back in 1 second, and we'll be talking with Nicole B. Simpson to kind of elaborate on some of the financial pieces and building a plan financially for your family. We'll be back soon. Thank you.
Television is a powerful and influential medium that allows different groups the opportunity to produce programming that directly affects their own communities. Public, educational, and government access channels ensure that all people, regardless of race, age, gender, disability, religion, or economic status, have access to local government information and the use of a public communication forum. Make sure everyone has a voice. Support your local PEG channels.
Welcome back to the Mom Show. I'm your host, Ingrid Williams, and we're going to pick up right where we left off with Keith, and we're going to be talking to Ms. Nicole B. Simpson of Harvest Wealth Financial.
Yes, ma'am.
And here she is. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Ingrid. How are you? Thank you for having me on the Mom Show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So we were in the beginning of the show, on the top of the show, we were talking with Keith, and he was giving us some really great relationship tips. He did touch on actually your area, which is financially, when there's a financial blow to the family and how it has a significant strain on the relationship, and it can change the dynamics of just that in the household. And you're awesome because I just went through the ultimate plan experience on Saturday, which is a seminar that you run. It's totally changed my life in the last 6 days. So I'm like so excited about it. So thank you so much for inviting me to that. But also what I learned there is that you should always have a financial plan for emergencies, and it's never too late, and you're never too quote unquote broke to start.
That's exactly right. And I want to begin by saying we all should have a life plan. We should know where we're looking to go, not only as single moms, as married individuals, married couples. We should have a life plan, and when we can determine that life plan, then we can put an economic dollar value to that particular plan. I always tell individuals, because we don't know the end of our lifespan, and so if you can tell me when you're going to die, I'll tell you exactly how much money you need based off of your lifestyle.
Right.
Other than that, you do need to create a plan of action. And so that's exactly what I do. I help people create a plan of action given their current dynamics, whatever their family situation may be. So if you're a single mom with 2 children, your plan is going to look differently than maybe a married couple with, a full-fledged family with the dog and a house and
Right.
things of that nature.
Good. Well, I think that's great. So just before we jump in, let me just have you tell everyone why you're qualified to tell them what their plan needs to be.
That's a good thing. Well, I've been in the securities industry for the last 20 years. I'm a certified financial planner by vocation. I'm also a crisis counselor, so I deal with the emotional components of finances. In addition to that, I'm Series 7, 63, 65, Life and Health, and CFP designation.
Right,
So
you got all the
I
stuff.
think that's what qualifies me to talk about creating a plan of action. And
Right.
plus, I'm an author, which I have several books that deal with, more precisely what you related to. I have a book that's titled The Ultimate Plan, A Financial Survival Guide for Life's Unexpected Events. So I touch all spectrums of
Right.
it all.
I love it. I love it. And you do it so well. You break it down to a very practical, because I know me with finances, it's like, shoot, what? Can I buy it or not?
I know. And you know what? It's amazing because it's our relationship with money that really defines how successful we will or will not be
Right.
in life. You can be a teacher and be more financially free than somebody that's working on Wall Street
Right.
that makes 6 figures. So it's really your discipline and your relationship with money in terms of what your lifestyle is going to be. And everybody's lifestyle is going to look different.
Different, yeah. Yeah, that's totally true. The janitor who works every day, people don't think he has all that he has, but he's a saver. So, he's working with more money than maybe the president of the company. You never really know.
Right.
Just making smart financial choices. So what is some advice that you have to maybe the young family just starting out with some children, and they're looking to kind of plan in a different way now since they have this life depending on them? What is your advice?
There are a few things that I need to indicate to people. The first things first is you should know where you're standing economically. You cannot create a plan of action without knowing exactly where you're standing financially. And so when I say that, I mean you ought to know what your expenses are. And you have some mandatory expenses, which we call non-discretionary, versus some discretionary expenses. So you know that you're going to have rent every month. You know you're going to have gas and electric. You know you have to buy food. And so you need to identify those expenses first and foremost. And then look at which expenses are, discretionary, the ones that you can live with or live without. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, it doesn't matter where you're standing, you must create in your mandatory expenses an opportunity to save. Mm-hmm. And for some individuals, if you're working, you have that option. You really don't have much of a choice, but you need to start saving for a rainy day. Even if it's $5 to $10, and we as young ladies and moms, we need that rainy day fund.
Right.
You really need to have something. And I will go down to the lowest common denominator, that even if you're working a job where you're really scraping from week to week and you really don't know how to make ends meet, get that old-fashioned, that water jug,
yeah,
and put your change in there at the end of the day and begin to build up. Because until you start there, you will not be able to have that firm foundation.
Right.
But you also, if you're working, you have an opportunity to save in your retirement plan. And this creates 2 opportunities. One, you're going to need the money when you get older. We know we all have parents and grandparents that are much older than we are. They have the same needs that we have. So you know that you're going to need money at that time. And 2, it creates an income tax break in the current year. So whatever you save for tomorrow, you get a tax break in the current year for that. So it's like taking money out of the left hand and putting it into the right hand. Finally, you did indicate that they're young moms and a young family. We must, and I think that this is so absolutely important, we must consider getting insurance.
Yes.
There are too many families that are struggling from day to day. They have young children, but God forbid, if something were to happen to you and you were not able to come home to take care of your children that you love so dearly, that's the reason why you work as vehemently and as bare bone as you do.
Right.
But if something were to happen to you, who's going to provide for your children?
Right.
Who's going to provide for them economically?
Right.
Ingrid, I'm the type of person that was very fortunate. I came out of, the urban areas. I came out of the ghetto, made it into middle income. Thank goodness for that. But if something were to happen to me, and I've had my experience, I'm a 911 survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Some people didn't come home. I was blessed to come home. If I had not come home, I had a 6-figure income that went down to $18,000 the following year.
Yeah.
Exactly what would have happened to my family?
Mm-hmm.
Would they have had to move? So this thing is very real in terms of needing insurance, because your children are the ones that you love the absolute most,
Right.
and you should love them enough to protect them even if you're not around.
Right, that's so important. I mean, it doesn't even have to be as catastrophic as, not coming home. That is a serious thing. You walk out of your house, get into accidents, totally serious. But as a human resources professional, what I see sometimes is, Susie's coming to work and she doesn't know today is her last day.
Exactly. Very
so
true.
it could be, it could just happen so fast. It doesn't have to be something that you're terminally, but your income can be terminated at any point in time.
That's the need for emergency cash.
Right.
That's why I say, even if you're saving $5, $10, $15, $25 a week, whatever your level of commitment is, it has to be consistent, because you do need 3 to 6 months worth of emergency cash.
Right.
And I say for individuals that are single parents, and now there are equally as many men that are becoming single parents as much as women, you need closer to 6 months, because
Right.
you don't have that secondary income coming in. So 3 to 6 months worth of emergency cash, and then begin to look for opportunities to save elsewhere.
Right. Oh, that's a good. What about for maybe the stay-at-home mom? She has a very unique situation where she has an income coming in, but it has to spread through, everyone else in the house, because it's just one of them.
So economically, there's a perception when you say stay-at-home mom. Stay-at-home moms, from a financial perspective, are oftentimes given a choice to stay home,
Right.
as opposed to an involuntary stay-at-home
Right.
mom, like you just can't get a job and
Right.
you're here with your 3 kids and you have to do whatever it is that you need to do. So for that stay-at-home mom, her choices are different. You still have a responsibility to save and to invest. They're usually generally connected with a spouse that
Right.
will, provide for you, or at least the income of an ex-spouse. And so you have a greater luxury or greater opportunity to invest in your children in terms of time. So you do have to spread your resources, but you become responsible for, making sure that your financial needs are met. I also encourage stay-at-home moms, you have that time on your hand to make the investment into your children, make the investment into yourself as well.
Right.
See if there's some gifts or skill sets or talents that you may have, where you can look at whatever entrepreneurial opportunities that may be. So that's for the stay-at-home moms. For those that are involuntarily staying home, they don't really have a job, they've been looking, perhaps, they've been struggling financially. It may not be as easy to save, because you're already scrimping and scraping, putting money together to survive from day to day. Your greatest investment is in looking for a way out, whether it means through education, whether it means, enhancing a skill set, looking at entrepreneurship opportunities, going to school while your children are going to school. You have to do some level of personal development to get you to the place where you're honing your craft or your skills or your talents, so that it can create a financial pathway to your freedom.
Okay, I think that's awesome. I do have a lot of friends that voluntarily stay at home. One of their main concerns is, having just cash for themselves. I don't know if that sounds kind of selfish, but they're just like, I just need some, money for myself. So the fact that you touched on the entrepreneurial, I'm always about
Get your
figure out what
hustle
you're
on,
going to do. Make some mac and cheese, make some sweet potato pie, something.
Exactly.
And
and
sell
that's
it, whatever.
And if you really look at it, Ingrid, it was stay-at-home moms and individuals, even in, I hate to say it, but our slavery days, that we created things simply out of a need to make life easier.
Right.
And so if you're sitting at home and you got the best macaroni and cheese or the best apple pie, make apple pies. I don't know if anyone knows the story of the rum cake lady. That's all she knew. She had a kitchen and and the ability to make rum cake, and she took her business international
Right.
because she knew how to make a rum cake.
Yeah.
So we have the ability to do that, and that's how you have your money. I know individuals that do well, do hair very well. Do what you need to do in order to have that money in your pocket, but think smartly by, you know, creating a business opportunity out of it, getting the tax break in the current
Right.
year, since I'm a financial planner,
Tell
you
them how
know.
to do it.
So we want to be able to do all of that, you know, not just have it be a hobby, but if you're going to make some money out of it, then have the correct structure so that you can stay at home, but you can also save and take advantage of all of the tax breaks as well.
Yes, I like to tell people that you never really know what you have until sometimes it's all that you can depend on. And I think that's when people start working into
They get real
what can I
serious
do?
about it.
Yeah, like, what can I do?
Absolutely.
But if you have the luxury, like, you know, or the breath to like really take a step back and really think about what it is that you have and really make a plan and work your plan, your little quote unquote apple pies could, like you said, become international, and you could become, you know, the primary breadwinner or pie winner
That's
just by
exactly
accident.
right. That's exactly
You know,
right.
so
I
you
know
never-
individuals that knit, and all they do is they make, you know, they make things for craft shows, and that's fine.
Right.
You know, it hones in on a talent or a skill, and has an economic cost to it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I say do whatever you need to do, especially in these day and ages. Everyone's struggling, but we all have at least one gift or talent, and that gift or talent can be your conduit to financial freedom.
Yes, it definitely can be. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Tell everyone how they can find you to talk with you more.
The best way to find me is actually you can Google Nicole B. Simpson, and you can go on my website, NicoleBSimpson.com, and I'm everywhere, Twitter, Facebook, the whole nine, you know, you can find me there. So it's www.NicoleBSimpson.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much today for Keith Dinn and Nicole B. Simpson for sharing their very encouraging news and just ways that you can get ahead as a mom, single, married, whatever it is. The information is great. Even dads can kind of, you know, apply that information to their life. It works for everyone. You were watching the Wow Mom Show. Thank you very much. I'm Ingrid Williams, and I'm a Wow Mom. Have a good night.